Fisher F75 with DST. Alright, right off the bat, we got a little bit of noise. This is inside a house. Go down to discrimination. Sensitivity is in 1. And we're going to change okay, we're on frequency 1. Seems to be a little quieter. Sensitivity is on its lowest level. I'm going to go through some of the functions on this, see how it comes out. Maybe it's a little hard to hold here. There's a good view here. Let's start off here. Sensitivity, like I got right now, sensitivity is on 1. It's an easy adjustment on that. This is the exact same as on the T2. Discrimination level, we have it set at 0 right now. Again, this is very much the same as on the T2. Looks exactly the same. Next we have notch. That does not exist on the T2. There is no notch. You can see across the top it shows the different levels here. A number of tones. This is a little different, but you'll find out that most of these are the same. And here's another little thing. Notice here, I pushed it. When I push it, I get to adjust it, and I can go through all the different tone options. On the T2, the tones are all integrated in with the processes. So you select processes and you select tones. So see right now, if I move that, nothing's happening. If I hit the button again, it's still on tones, and I can make my adjustments. 1, 1F, 2, 2F, 2H, 2L. These are the ferrous tones. So this is the high, and this is kind of medium, and this is the low. 1N is kind of a progressive audio. It's real similar to 2, except you don't have the ferrous tones separately. Oop, too far. Go back, apologize on that. Here's the tones. 3H is a 3-tone that favors nickels. 3 doesn't give any bias towards nickels. 4H again is a 4-tone that biases nickels. Then we have a straight 4. And then we have the crazy DP mode that I don't know anybody would use it because it's just too many tones. It's kind of crazy. So that's pretty much it. Again, it timed out again. I'm going to show you something that I actually like on the T2, the way it does it a little bit better than on here. Then we'll go down to processes. The standard process is default. Back behind that one, you have the fast audio. I'm liking that one a lot in parks. It seems to be pretty sharp. Kind of cuts a depth, and in a junkie park where a lot of stuff is shallow, that doesn't hurt anything. I'm going to go back there. We'll go back default, jewelry. And again, the difference is on the T2, everything's under processes, including your tones. There is no such thing as a default. It just has the FA mode and doesn't have this jewelry or BC is actually integrated into a tone on the T2. It doesn't have plow field. It does have the BP mode and does have the cache mode. So in many ways it's really similar. The way you access them is different. One thing to notice is that you'll see on here, I'm going to do a DE and leave it there. Forgive me, there's a little bit of glare coming up here. I'm going to kind of change the angle here. I have a penny on here. You see on the top. Get it nice and close. Right now I have a small coil on there. A little flaky with the low. One thing is different. Again, this is a nuance in here. We're going to go back to, see if I can get that glare out of there a little bit. There we go. Get down a little bit. Go here. I'm going to go back up to sensitivity. I'm going to raise sensitivity up just a little bit. A little bit more like normal until it doesn't chatter a little bit. And discrimination level. Now, this is something I wanted to show. So let's look at the discrimination level. Now watching the top, we move it around, see those things get crossed out. That's iron. We keep going. We hit foil right about 15. So iron is right around 0 to 15. I think I read it's also 0 to 12. But it's right in that range. It's a very much narrower range. And we'll show this on the T2. This kind of helps. I'm going to get back on there. So keep going up. We get into foil. So again, our ferrous part is right in that 15 range and below. And then we get into foil. And then we keep going up. And we're going to get into nickels right in this area, right around 22, I believe, is somewhere around in there where a nickel shows up. Then we keep going. Then we get to tab here. Now, again, notice that the tab is a separate item on this one, and you'll see on the T2 that that's a little different. It changed a little different, so click the button again. And we're in tab, keep going up. We're going to hit zinc here pretty soon. So first notch of zinc is after 55, so supposedly 55 and below takes out nickels, tabs, foil, and iron. Go back in there again. So now we'll go up to zinc again. Keep going up to zincs. And then we're going to, and that is as much as you can go. So you literally can't discriminate out a penny, a copper penny, a dime, or a quarter. Those will only be there, but you can discriminate out zinc, tabs, nickels, and all that. So, but one thing to notice here is that the numbers here are a little bit different. On the T2, you're actually discriminating from 0 to 40 is the iron. So the range for the conductive ones is from 40 up or 41 up, so 41 to basically 99 is the conductive side of it, and 40 and below is the ferrous. The good thing about the F75 that I can see is that you're getting a little finer tuning on the conductive. So the conductive range is basically about 85 points, because there's ferrous is 15 and below, so you have from basically 16 up to 99, a little less than 85, what I said, but pretty close to that. So that's a pretty wide range on that, and it allows you to kind of fine-tune out some of the junk targets like tabs and other things, though I'm not a big notcher, so I could see where somebody could get an advantage of that, but I don't think I'm going to ever use that function. But it is something to note that there is a difference in how the ranges are divided up. It's still a 0 to 100. It's just that on the F75 your conductive range is much higher, and on the F70 or on the T2 the ferrous range is much larger than on the F75. Let's pop back here, and we're going to back that way off again. That's kind of a crazy thing. Again, I'm not a real fan. I'm not really sure where I would set this to fetch things. I haven't played with that enough, but I'm probably somewhere like 5. Maybe it's going to pick out the biggest iron and allow me to discriminate between the twos. So now let's get back to, and we'll go to notch and tones and processes, and let's go back to here. Now here I can go over Oops, went too far. I gotta go through all these again. There we go, I'm in discrimination. Now I can go over here to all motion. And I got motion. And then I can hit that. Then go back and forth between static and motion, static and motion. I'm not sure I'd ever use static. It's kind of like pinpointing. I haven't played around if there's any nuances there, but if I was using all metal, it would be the motion side. So we'll go back here. We have threshold. I think it's interesting. This is the same thing on the T2, that you can actually, have negative threshold. So if you wanted to run silent, you could by backing the threshold off and basically have silent search with no threshold you wanted, or you can dial it up if you want. And you can hear it coming up here. And 9 is the highest you can go on there. And we'll back all the way off here. Like everybody says, kind of want it so you just barely can hear it. And here we're going to do the I'm about the 5-inch coil. I'm at least a foot away, maybe better. You can hear that change going on, so it does actually work fairly good and give you quite a bit of depth, so that's kind of nice. So I could even go a little quieter. It doesn't show you on the screen, but you can still tune it down quite a bit, so that's barely audible right there. I'm going to take that, back it off so you're not hearing it. Oops. So it takes it out of the thing. We don't need to hear it right now. Audio pitch. Well, take that back. I'm going to go back. We're going to bring that back up so it's loud so we can hear the audio pitch function. There's that. So now we're going to go to audio pitch. So +9 is the highest pitch there on the threshold. And let's just see. For me, that's a... And I'm well over a foot. Maybe 18 inches. It's a long ways. And I can kind of hit that with a pitch. That's kind of an interesting thing. I haven't played with that. Let's hit that again. Let's go the other direction. You can hear it going way down. -9 is the lowest point. I actually find it, I can hear that difference better at the higher pitch. I have to actually way a bit closer here to hear that change. So that's something to note there. I would say that as long as your hearing can hear that high pitch, you're going to detect things a little bit deeper by raising that pitch up, because I could definitely hear it better. Oop, it's getting out of focus here. Come on, focus there. Sorry about that. You can definitely see it better with the higher pitch. Let's put that pitch back again. So I'm going to do that again. You can hear. I don't know if you can hear that. I can hear that much further away, oddly enough, than with the lower one. Again, and this is one thing you notice I'm keeping going back and push the red button. You'll see that on the T2 that I don't have to do that, which is actually kind of handy. I wish they'd kind of implemented that feature. It just works different. And you can notice that even in there, if I get close enough, it's proportional. The closer I get, it squeals pretty loud. And you get far enough away, then you don't. But you do get your VIDs, which is kind of nice. Seems like the VIDs are a little stabler on all metal for some reason. I'm not sure why. We're going to go back to discrimination here in a minute. So there's that thing. Sensitivity. The sensitivity is different between all metal and things, so you can adjust them separately. So if you're going back and forth, you could go back and forth and have different sensitivity levels. It's much higher than I have the other thing. You notice really there's not a lot of noise here. It's pretty quiet threshold. I did have to adjust my frequency to F1 to kind of get it quieted down, but it does seem to be a little quieter. It does seem to be a little noisier in discrimination for some reason. The all metal mode actually seems to be quieter to me than the discrimination mode. And let's go push another one. And then there's a manual ground balance. Around here I've been between 68 to 72, 73 seems to be the ground around here, just for comparison purposes. Again, this is inside the house, not the best environment. I'm going to go back up here so we can move back over to this group. One more push. Now we go back to discrimination. Now we're back on discrimination. Here I got sensitivity on 10. See what happens when I dial the sensitivity up in here. And you'll see what I mean. Unless it stays pretty quiet. Maybe that F1 is going to hold off better. I'm going to get about 60, the same thing I was on the other one. One nice thing about this one is that when you turn it off, when you turn it back on, everything stays the same. The bad thing about that is when you turn it off, and it's been a while since you turn it back on, you don't really remember where everything is. So you still kind of have to go through and set everything up. So I don't see it, it's not a huge advantage. It is kind of one that's nice if you're out on the same day and you're having to flip around that you don't have to reset things. But these things are so easy to change your functions on. It's not a big deal to me. I think that's pretty easy. So I don't see that being such a huge thing between the two. I mean, it's nice, but it's nice. Now, one other thing you can see here, and you'll see it when I bring the T2 up here, is that backlight's nice. I really wish the T2 had the backlight. I think that'd make a lot of difference. And I'm going to point out one thing on the screen. You can see here, here's the depth grade, and then over here is a confidence. When you hit something, you'll see on the very top, we'll get a little bit closer. I'm goofing it up. I have a penny, I have a zinc, and a... Yeah, so anyway, you see the discrimination on the top, and you see that confidence level go up, and you can kind of see the depth, and that's kind of on the fly depth. So the closer I get, that little band is up there, and then as I back away, you can see it kind of backs away. So that's depth on the fly can be nice, but I'm not usually finding myself staring at the screen. I'm just listening. So again, not a huge benefit. It can be when you're looking at the target and you're trying to figure out whether to dig it or not. That can be nice. And then I do look at the screen, see what the VID numbers are. But when I'm general hunting, I'm really not looking at the screen very much. I'm just listening, trying to see what I hear for tones. And I know this has more tones, but I don't think the tone options are really that limiting between the two. I think you're really essentially getting just about the same number of tones, so I don't see that's a big deal. But again, I want to point this one thing out here. So here this is. I can make my changes in on my sensitivity. It's not a big deal. But if I wait long enough, it times out. And again, when it times out, I lose that ability to make adjustments. And it seems like it'd be nice. And on the T2, you'll see this, that whatever I'm on, if I grab that knob and I start turning it, it'll make a change on it. So in some ways, I kind of like that. It's a little bit better. Battery, Ferris meter, those are all about the same. And you'll see how that the T2 does it, the confidence a little bit differently. And I actually kind of like the way it does it a little bit better too. So the big thing for me on this that makes the F75 a worthy contender and worth more money, I'd say two things. One's a backlight, and this fact here that with tones, the tones and the processes are separate. So if I want to put 3H tone on my FA mode, and I think it works in FA mode, but let's say all the other ones, the default, jewelry, BP, I can apply that. On the T2, I don't get to choose. When I go into processes, I don't get to choose the tones. The tones are pretty much fixed. So there's not a lot of difference. So I think that's a pretty good overview of this. And as you can see, there's a different... It just seems to be a little bit more stable on the target IDs in the all metal mode than it does discrimination level. And that might just be my imagination, but it just seems that way. So we're going to go ahead and turn this off, turn it back on, so you can see what version it is. And we'll call that. So it's coming up 015, 14. So see, when you turn it back on, until I adjust that sensitivity, which I'm going to do right now, it doesn't seem, I don't know what it's defaulting to, but as soon as I do that, it always goes back to 1, but when it first comes up, it's a little check. So I'd say if you ever got this thing out there and it was being a little noisy when you first did it, just go ahead and change your frequency and see how it goes until you get a quiet channel. Out in the field, I really don't notice any noise on either this or the T2 with the DST. They're pretty darn quiet. Nothing. No noise, no nothing at all. It's just pretty quiet machine. Unlike you'd seen in the older videos, you can ramp it up to 99 and full power, though instead of getting noise from the sky from EMI, when you ramp it up to 99, you get noise from the ground, especially in a trashy park. So I'm finding that tuning my sensitivity down is helping me pick through the targets a little bit better, because I really don't need the depth in that park I'm at right now. 6 inches is plenty on almost everything I've been finding so far. So anyway, that's it for this one. Forgive the bounciness. And next up is T2.